Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm up here in our cabin in New Buffalo, and it is the end of the year. It's Christmas Eve, and I was sitting there thinking, you know what, I've reviewed 39 different e-bikes this year, and I figured I would go ahead and share my best with you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the pros, the cons of each bike. I'm going to give you links that'll go directly to the bike or any discount codes that I have with it, and also links that lead you to my full review. So let's get into it. Now you're going to notice a pattern here when it comes to e-bikes because you're going to hear me mention the same manufacturer more than once, and I can't help it. It's just the fact that they make good e-bikes and they're going to end up on the list more than once. Now I'm going to break these down into different categories because there's not just one bike that covers everything. And here's what I mean. Like right now we're going to talk about the 26-inch fat tire bikes and which one's my favorite. Well, probably to no one's surprise, for me it's going to be the Aventon Adventure 2. Some of the things that I love about that bike is that it has a torque sensor and it has dual brake lights with turn signals. And this was the first bike that I had that type of setup. And I thought it was a gimmick, but I actually end up using these turn signals all the time. Plus, it has excellent quality. It has the trigger shifters. It basically has everything that I love in a fat tire e-bike. Now the cons are, it is a big bike, so it's going to be heavy, it's bulky, and you have to kind of manhandle it to move it around when you're not riding it. My number two on the 26-inch fat tire e-bikes would be the Velotric Nomad 1. I just love the styling of this bike. You know, the first time I saw it, I loved how it is. I loved how it rides. It is a very super solid bike. It has a cadence sensor. Something about the Velotric bikes, they all have excellent brakes. And I really like how the throttle, the grips, the seat, how everything works with that bike. Now the cons are, it's also a heavy bike and it only has a battery-powered taillight. Let's talk cargo bikes. And I ended up doing a series between these two cargo bikes to see which one I was going to like the best. My number one pick is the Velotric Packer 1. When it comes to the pros of the Packer 1, well, it has a bigger front tire, which makes the riding more stable. It also goes up to 25 miles an hour. Now it does have a cadence sensor, but it has 176 pounds that you can put on rear cargo weight, and it has 4 piston brakes. The cons is that it has limited accessories. There's no panniers. You can get like baskets for the back and the front. It is also set up to do passengers and small children on the back of it, but it just doesn't really have like bags that you would want to put on a cargo bike. My second choice would be the Aventon Abound cargo e-bike. This bike has a torque sensor, it's very powerful, and it has high torque and multiple accessories. Now the cons when it comes to this bike is that it is limited to 20 miles an hour. Let's talk about utility e-bikes. Now my number one pick has to be Radpower's RadRunner 3+. The great thing about Radpowers is that they have tons of different configurations. Matter of fact, they have over 350 different configurations with endless accessory options. Now this bike does have a twist throttle and it goes up to 25 miles an hour as its top speed. The cons, it has very limited colors and it has the loudest rear hub motor that I've tested on any e-bike. Plus, this motor is limited and governed at 750 watts. And this bike is over $2,000 just to get the basic version. My second choice would be the Mokwheel Scoria. Now, I love how this bike looks. Matter of fact, I've put a lot of money into this bike, accessorizing it to make it my own. But that's the thing. Like, I wanted to rate it number one, but I can't because I had to do all these changes to it to make it to where I liked it just as well as my RadRunner 3+. So the pros when it comes to the Mokwheel Scoria, it looks great, it handles well, it has a 960 watt-hour battery, which is 1/3 bigger than the other utility bikes that I have reviewed. Now the cons is that this bike will ghost pedal on you, which is kind of weird because it does have a torque sensor, and if you're like me, you're going to want to put some money into the bike to solve that issue. The accessories on the Mokwheel are not that great. Yes, they have baskets, but they don't really have any bags that fit the baskets exactly. Let's talk about foldable e-bikes. Now I'm going to give you 3 here because 2 of them are over $1,000 and 1 of them is under $1,000. My top pick would be the Engwe Engine Pro. And the reason being, it's like 3 bikes in one. It has 3 different settings. One will give you 500 watts of power. The next will give you 750 watts of power. And the third will give you 1,000 watts of power. It comes with racks and fenders, and it's also foldable. Now, the only con about this bike that I've been able to find is that it has a price tag of $1,500. My second choice is going to be the Aventon Sinch.2. The bike comes completely assembled. It has an excellent build, and everything is just quality when it comes to this bike. Now, the cons of the two, which made it not beat out the Engwe Engine Pro, is the fact that it was originally locked to 20 miles an hour. Aventon has made a change to where you can take that up to 25, which is great, but for the same price as the Engine Pro, it has mechanical brakes, when the Engine Pro had hydraulic brakes. So because of that, I had to give it to the Engwe Engine Pro. Now, the best foldable bike that I found under $1,000 was the Gotrax F2. That bike really surprised me, I have to tell you. This bike only cost $799, and it outperformed some of the other bikes that cost more than that. It was more solid than what I thought it was going to be as well. Now, the cons of that bike is that it has mechanical brakes, and for a bike that's only $799, well, you would expect that. Also, the display is very basic, generic, but if you want a foldable bike under $1,000 that's going to get you places, you might want to check out that video on my full review. When it comes to the commuter bikes, I have to give it to the Aventon Level 2. When it comes to the pros of this bike, it has a torque sensor, it's lighter weight, it's nimble, it comes with a rack, fenders, it's comfortable to ride, and the only con that I was able to find with this bike is that it didn't have an adjustable stem. My second choice would be the Velotric Discover 1. It comes in a ton of different colors, which I thought was pretty awesome. It's also nimble, it's light, and it's super comfortable to ride. The cons is that it doesn't come with a rear rack. You do have a black and white display, so it's pretty basic. Although I do have to tell you that I've never had any issues seeing that display in direct sunlight. Let's talk dual battery bikes. I reviewed quite a few this year, but only really 2 of them stand out to me. My first choice would have to be the Mooncool MC3. Now, this is a bike that I just received not too long ago, and what I like about it is that it has dual motors and that it's all-wheel drive. Plus, you can purchase an additional battery to make it a 2-battery bike. And the price of this bike is excellent. Now, there are some cons to it, right? It doesn't come with fenders, doesn't come with a rack. You have to purchase that separately, as you do with the extra battery, but it's also heavy. It weighs 100 pounds before adding the second battery, and then it weighs about 108 pounds after. But for some reason, I really like this bike. My second choice would be the Blix Ultra. Now, it is a bike made in Sweden. It is versatile. You can use it as a cargo bike. You can use it as a mountain bike. You can use it as a utility bike. It also rides very well. You can take it up to 30 miles an hour, and if you have the dual battery version, well, those batteries work together. Now, when it comes to the cons, you have to change it in the app to go from Class 2 to Class 3 every time you turn on the bike. That's kind of annoying, but it's still an excellent bike. Now, this year, I only reviewed a couple of Moped Style e-bikes. One was the Rave Bullet GT, but my favorite was the Engwe M20. This Moped Style bike just sits higher, and it is fun to throttle around on. Plus, it looks cool, it has dual headlights, and it has a dual battery. Now, the con, which comes to any of the Moped Style e-bikes that I have ridden, well, it's hard to pedal, and it had a super basic display. So there you have it. Those are my top picks for 2023 when it comes to the different style of bikes. Whoa. I almost forgot to tell you what my favorite overall bike is, and that is the Velotric Thunder 1 or the T1ST. The things I love about this bike is that it weighs only 36 pounds, and it is very minimalistic when it comes to an e-bike. There is no throttle, there is no display. As a matter of fact, you can't even tell it's an e-bike unless you look really hard at it. The bike is silent, and the great thing about it is it's just super light, and it makes you just feel like you're really good at pedaling. There's something about the way this bike just sits and how it feels and how it handles that makes it my #1 pick when it comes to bikes that I enjoy riding. The only cons that I see to this bike, or some of the things that you might like about an e-bike, is that there is no throttle, there is no display. To me, I'm totally fine with that, but that's not something that you might like. Also, the battery on this bike is pretty small, but Velotric just came out with a range extender that'll connect to the bike, and I'll be doing a video on that soon. So let's get back to it. Now, if I have mentioned any of these bikes and you're interested to either learn more about it or maybe purchase one yourself, well, I'm going to have those links in the description below. Plus, if I have any discount codes for that bike, they'll also be in the description. I appreciate you guys staying with me as I showed you some of my favorite bikes of 2023. I want to thank you for watching. And until I see you again, enjoy the ride.